Welcome to the Living Elan podcast, where we help you reclaim your confidence and energy through taking control of your wellness. I'm Paige Hope.
And I'm Tracey Vlahos. Join us for quick chats on wellness, personal growth, hormone regulation, and more. Well, welcome to another episode of Living Elan. And I am so excited to be able to have Paige again here with me. And Paige, I tell you what, end of October. And can you believe it already? We are ready to go into the holiday season.
It is crazy. I walked, I think it was Target, and there's already Christmas stuff out. It's like they've skipped Halloween and Thanksgiving.
It's funny that you said that. Like, I was in the store the other day and I thought to myself, what in the world is going on? I mean, I'm sure our listeners out there are like going, I know. It's all about the holidays.
Slow it down. Slow it down, which is why we're excited about today's episode, actually.
Yes.
And this whole month. We have a lot of fun stuff coming this whole month.
Yes. Because, you know, the holidays can be a stressful time for people. And we want everybody to enjoy the holidays, right? We're all about hormone regulation. We're all about having confidence and having energy. And so, you know, when I think about Halloween coming up, and really, Paige, we're ready to go into like the biggest season of the year, but also the biggest season when it comes to sugar. We start with holidays. We start with Halloween, right? All those tiny little candies, at least for me, Paige. Now, my kids are older now, but they would go trick-or-treating, and it was so easy to just have those bite-sized candies, right? Mm-hmm. Then, of course, we're going into Thanksgiving. We've got holiday parties. We go right into Christmas, and then also the New Year. So I will say this is the time of year that we consume the most sugar. And it really is a big deal for people. I know we just finished up the series on breast cancer awareness. And, you know, sugar, I always say, like, there's not a cell in your body that will consume sugar and absolutely create inflammation, like on a cellular level as cancer cells. But I really want to shift this into how can we manage the inflammation going into the holidays? How can we now take the volume of sugar that we have and bring it down? Paige, I was sharing with Paige for the listeners here. We were just coming into the podcast studio and I said, do you realize that most Americans consume about 150 pounds of sugar a year?
Yikes.
150 pounds. Now, I always say I want you to visualize that. When you go in the grocery store, you see like the 5-pound sugar bags. Imagine 31 of them piled up like beside you. That is how much sugar we're consuming.
And that's average. So let's not be average, everybody.
No.
We're not about being average on this podcast.
No. We need to bring that way down.
Way down.
Because there is so much science out there, right? It affects our energy level. And we're all about adding energy into your life. Mm-hmm. It affects then if you're not energetic, it affects your confidence, what it does to your skin. And we are definitely
hormones.
Oh, everything, complete regulation.
Yep.
So I just really wanted to take this episode here and help bring awareness to it. And then what are those things that we can do going into the holidays, especially when it comes to sugar? But here's the thing, Paige, any time of year that we can start making some simple swaps. Where is it hidden? Because I want everybody to be able to go in the holidays, feel good, not have the sugar crashes, have that energy, have that confidence. Because let me just pause to say, and being, you give us confidence all the time by the beautiful glowing tan that we get all the time. It is the truth.
I love that. That was a really good plug for Elan Pure. And thank you, Tracey. No, I agree, though. I agree. And one thing on the sugar note that I want to say is the holidays used to be stressful for me because I used to binge during the holidays and specifically binge sugar because I have been very healthy throughout all of my years. And so when it was that holiday time, instead of enjoying and being intentional with it and still like, of course, eating the fun desserts that you don't normally eat, I would go a little cray-cray. And instead of eating, 1 or 2 pieces of pie, I'd have to eat the whole pie. One thing of ice cream, you got to eat the whole thing of ice cream. So we're going to dive into all of this, our tips and tricks. And of course, if you guys have any questions as well, submit them in because we record every week, as you guys know.
Yeah. Like I will say, Paige, are you saying that you kind of had that all or nothing I think a lot of women
Totally.
all the time, it's all or nothing. We're not just going to have a piece of something. We're going to have the entire thing.
Especially during the holidays, because
Absolutely.
I've also learned, and I want to start off by saying this, especially on the binge side, whoever you're around, and this might be family, if you have family that there's, everyone is overindulging, the people you're around all the time, that can be a trigger. And for me, my whole family, like, we love sweets. And so when we're around for the holidays, there's a bunch of sweets. And so already, and I think I was telling Tracey a little bit about this on the car ride here too, is coming prepared and being the person in your family that's bringing the healthier version of something. So we're going to get into that as well. But Tracey, why don't you kick us off with the science first? Like, let's get into, I know you talked about the negative things that sugar brings.
Yeah.
But let's go a little bit deeper into that so people can actually visualize, okay, what you're doing to your body when you are way overindulging on sugar.
Yeah.
And what your recommendations are.
Yeah, and I want everybody to understand. I mean, obviously, we're going to the holidays, so we're talking about this, but this really is all year long. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at, disease in general, whether that's heart disease, diabetes, so many things, the root cause of all disease is inflammation. And when you think inflammation, you take it back to sugar, right? Yeah. There's so many things, like I said, that inflame your body, that it does. When I was in school, many moons ago, and I remember studying and looking at this going, oh, wait a second, even when you consume sugar, it actually strips your body of minerals. It actually strips your body then of the nutrients that it needs, and that they were tying it to even osteoporosis, all the artificial sweeteners out there. There's so much to dementia and different things, to our gut health. And what, I was kind of, joking a little bit earlier saying, we consume at least 150 pounds of sugar a year. And I was, so many people come to me and go, but Tracey, I don't eat sugar. I mean, I'm not really a sweets person. And so Paige, if you don't mind, I'd like to even dive into, where is sugar hidden? Mm-hmm. Because again, yes, this is about the holidays, and in the month of November, we're really going to spend time about not just surviving the holidays, but thriving during the holidays, still having your treat. But I want this episode to even be more about like education for people to understand, and where is it hidden, so that I can start crowding it out, because it really is a big deal.
I would agree with you on that. And I'm interested to know from your perspective, what can we do to start educating ourselves on where it's hidden? Because I tell everyone this when they're going on their hormone journey. Of course, everyone knows, if you've been listening, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, but I also stay away from processed foods. And a lot of those processed foods have all of those hidden sugars. And the moment that you get rid of that, and I noticed this before the gluten and the dairy, my face... Oh, I was going to try to pull up a photo of my old chin. My chin was covered in acne all the time. And I don't know. I mean, we do actually have a lot of fitness listeners as well, which is interesting. And I love that, because we care about our bodies, right? But the only issue is when you're so encumbered in macro counting and all of that, you are, like you mentioned, putting in those artificial sweeteners. Yes. And what's interesting is when I got rid of all of that, the sugar, the artificial sweeteners, that's when my acne cleared up, before even the gluten and the dairy. Now, I started glowing when I got rid of the gluten and the dairy, but the actual acne, getting rid of that processed crap. So what's it hidden in? Right.
So, I just also want to mention this. Let's talk about where it's hidden. Is this? It just made me flashback. I worked with a gentleman many years ago, an older gentleman who walked with 2 canes, Paige. And
I remember this story. Yes. There, we have new listeners, so tell us again.
I definitely want to share this, because it just came to me, because you were talking about, like you said, your chin and the acne. I said, it's the number one thing for your skin health and also aging process. Remember what I said earlier? It strips minerals, vitamins, enzymes, which affects then your skin. It will age it very quickly, but your joints and inflammation. And so when I started helping him crowd it out where it was hidden. And yes, listeners, we're going to share this with you. And then he started adding things in, like you said, more whole foods. Yep. So he wasn't missing anything. right? I remember the day that he came in to the office. So I worked alongside this naturopath. He was walking with 0 canes.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, what? I can still see it, like seeing him, there was like this little, like when you opened up the door, you could hear this bell. And all of a sudden I remember just like looking up and I see him walking in and I was like, no way. And his family had wrote me this note and they're like, we cannot believe our father. Now they're like, will you please work with us? Will you help us? And at the time, I really wasn't focused on gluten and dairy because it was, that many years ago. But I was focused on whole foods, which automatically would have been less gluten and dairy, obviously. But it was all about sugar.
Yeah.
So that inflammation, if you're walking around with joint pain and things, I'm not saying like this would be 100%.
And by the way, this is not an old person thing either. No. Like I have a really good friend who is maybe 31,
Yeah.
and already has arthritis.
Yes.
So getting rid of some of that stuff, and not to say this is going to happen to everyone, but we're all about the prevention and the education, right?
Yes.
Our audience, like, I think they now know if you're for us, right? Like, we are the people that want to live optimally and live with intention and have really good heart-centered lives. And so if that's you, keep listening, obviously,
Yes.
because it's so important. We want to live beautiful lives. So that's such a heartwarming story, Tracey.
Thank you.
I love that.
And it just proves that no matter how old you are, your body can heal itself. And when you take those things out, so that's what made me forever like on this topic. And I really spend time on it. So first of all, I just want to share what Paige was sharing with everyone. Sugar comes in the form of a lot of different names. Okay. So not only the artificial sweeteners and what that looks like, but you have molasses, honey, you could have cane, you could have raw sugar. Like there's all these different types. Now, some of them are natural and those things are good for you. But what has happened with our food is I used to always show like this box of cereal, for example, and it would have honey, cane sugar, cane syrup, corn syrup. There's so many different names. So for the listeners right now, I want you to know that we have created a sheet. So please go to the show notes that have like 50 different names of sugar. Because I would go through, flip over. The most important thing that you're going to need to do is start like flipping over labels and start looking. In this quote unquote healthy cereal that used to just shock everyone, I would show the label and then show them how there was like 5 different types of sugar in it. And they were like, you mean this cereal that I thought quote unquote was healthy is actually loaded with sugar. And so when you start understanding the names of sugar, and it's like, oh, wait a second. Like I'm really consuming this much sugar. You go to a restaurant and when you see the word glaze itself, glaze is a sugar. So many people, like for myself, I like love salmon. But for me, just a matter of fact, I was traveling over the weekend and I was eating a lot of salmon, to be honest with you. But I kept saying, can I have that just grilled, no glaze? Because the glaze has sugar.
Which is an easy swap.
It's so easy. So I would say, may I please have it without? When you think about ketchup even. So with this list that we're ready to provide for you, I also do a swap list because it's so easy. So a lot of times ketchup will have corn syrup in it, sugar in it. It's like, oh, I'm going to upgrade it to something that doesn't have as much in it.
Like, because there are healthier versions of ketchup out there too.
Yes.
Some people just don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I know. And that's what's so sad. It actually makes I get actually emotional about this because I'm like, I will say probably 90% of Americans just don't understand that there is an alternative solution. And it's not even that it's so much more expensive either.
No.
It's just that the marketing trickery and they trust I hate to say this, they trust the food pyramid that the government puts out, right? Like
Yes.
they just don't know any different. And so the more we can educate you guys, the more you can pass it forward and it's a domino effect. And I literally feel like this can help the world.
Yes. Well, I mean, you think about even salad dressing. Let's take a salad, for instance. When I would work with my clients, I'd say, now listen, let's take the salad, but we don't need a dessert bowl. We don't need a sugar bomb. And they would just look at me and I'm like, first, let's look at the salad dressing. You take salad dressing and you flip it over and you're like, what? I didn't know. And most people are putting more than 2 tablespoons on, okay? And now they're having all that. And then they're like, oh, and I had dried cranberries and I had the dried apricots and I had the pecans, but those pecans are candied.
Yep.
Oh, I had the croutons, which then the croutons convert to sugar. And next thing you know, you've got a sugar bowl. You might as well, you have a dessert bowl in this salad that you thought. And so when you start educating yourself and seeing where it's all adding up, tiny little bits. Why we now understand why most people are getting 150, right, pounds of sugar in a year, right? Imagine those 31 5-pound bags of sugar because it's hidden everywhere. So
I have a quick salad dressing. I just want to
please, because I was going to say this is what I do every time.
So everyone knows. I always say this. I love a good bowl. I just assemble everything into a bowl. I've got meat, usually like some sort of sweet potato, veggie. All of it, all of the good stuff. Tracy's on my bowl today.
Yes.
And I had a friend, and I'm going to plug her right now, Jess. She told me to do coconut aminos with lemon. And if you want like to add a little bit of an avocado oil to that, you can as well. It is so yummy. It will turn your salads. I'm not even joking you. You will be obsessed. And I just wanted to say that because we're here to give you tips. We're not here to just tell you, hey, don't eat salad dressing. But that is one that I love and I approve of because it's not fake sugars either.
No. So for me, like when I'm at a restaurant, so because people say, well, now what do I do? Because we never hear to say, oh, take away. I always say add in to crowd out. That's my philosophy. I'm not going to look at you and say, oh, here's everything that you can't have. Here, all the alternatives. So if I'm out at a restaurant, every single time, I always say, would you please bring me some olive oil and lemons? Because they're probably not going to have the amino acid, right? But just like you're at home, the coconut amino acids, I should say. So if you're out, that's simply that. If I'm ordering a salad, I just say, I don't want it with the raisins, the craisins, this and that. So these are the things that you can do, but then add in avocado and do these things because I always say you are worthy to take a moment and order what you want. But it first becomes about the awareness of where it's hidden. Yes. I always talk about yogurt. I would do grocery shopping tours all the time. Make people would hire me and say, please come help me, Tracey. And what I'd want people to do is feel very secure in a store of like, what is the upgrade to it, right? So I'm going to be able to add in to crowd out. And so yogurt was huge with people. It's like they'd flip it over and go, what? There's 38 grams of sugar in this?
I feel like there's 2 sets of people that are listening. There's the one set that doesn't know where all the hidden sugars are. And then there's the other set that is hyper aware. So they use everything sugar free. Like that's a big, huge listener set that we have as well. And so when we tell you guys to look at the ingredients, it's also to look at, well, what are those ingredients? Can you pronounce those ingredients? Are you reading things like sucralose, which, we would recommend not using any of that, right? So making sure that the source is really clean. I'll give Just Ingredients another plug. I like to do that. They are a great non-toxic supplement brand. They also have beauty products. And that's really important as well to make sure that you're getting quality ingredients. Now I'm going to tell you this. Because I know we've got a lot of sugar-free listeners. Because I was one of those as well. Now.
Yeah, me too. Oh, boy. Adkin bar all the way, baby.
I'm just going to tell you that it's not going to taste as good as your sugar-free Monster, okay? Like, that's also something that you have to be okay with. Like, these pre-workouts, I still drink pre-workout. I know there's definitely people that are against caffeine. I'm not against caffeine. I do use the Just Ingredients pre-workout. It's natural sugars. I also use... is it Pure? Oh my goodness. I cannot remember. Now I'm going to tell you, when I switched to a non-toxic pre-workout, clean, free of artificial sweeteners, dyes, all of that, really well sourced, I did not love the flavor at first. And I'm just going to be real with you guys. But now I do. But because we're getting rid of, when you see the word natural flavors as well, natural flavors does not actually mean it's natural flavor. That's a really hidden one that I like to tell people about. So that is my thing, is if you want to make these little small sacrifices, your bloating will go away if you stop eating those artificial sweeteners. Also, like even my insulin, there was a lot of studies around insulin spiking, but also making you crave more sugar when you have some of those zero sugar things. So it's funny where when I would have all of the Coke Zero and the sugar-free Monsters, I still had heavy, high cravings. So if you're one of those people, take the inventory and see, oh, I might be getting like a little too extra of this. So
yes,
that's what I wanted to say.
And I will just wrap that up to say that is on the list. So when you download the list of all the names of sugar, it's also the artificial sweeteners, because we have to do both and understanding where they're hidden. And like I said, at the bottom of the sheet, we list out lots of different things, but here are alternatives, right?
I love that. And
I'll say that Time Magazine did a huge article, what you just said, on like zero sugars, but it was the artificial sweeteners. And why am I craving more? It's a chemical. They compared it to cocaine. They said it is more addictive, and all the science was there. And oh my goodness, I have kept that article with me forever.
It's scary.
Yes.
Because also going into the holidays, at the beginning of the episode, when I talked about the binge a little bit, my binge was bad during the holidays because I was like, okay, I can't have, I'm going to be really strict on this. I'm going to have all of these like sugar-free stuff. And then all of a sudden I would go so heavy on that. So when we close this episode out, let's give like a couple tips, just both of us, for going into the holidays, our tips for eliminating sugar, but still enjoying during the holidays. So for me to start, I will just say that I have a very beautiful relationship with food now, where I am always going to wake up and have a really solid breakfast. I'm not going to, and Tracey always talks about this, the all or nothing mentality, like do not starve yourself all day to then indulge at night. Like, that's not what you need to do. Like, fuel your body throughout the day. Go have fun. Get rid of the sugar alcohols. And also, my recommendation is just water. If you're going to indulge in all of the desserts, which is what I like to do, I don't even bother with the sparkling cider. Like, my family always does like a little sparkling cider cheers. And I actually don't do the sparkling cider because I'm like, well, I'm probably gonna have 3 pieces of pie, so that's my indulgent like this time. And like, so it's also just learning like how to, where you want to draw the line for yourself. Now I'm not gonna indulge all the time, but 3 times a year, I'm gonna enjoy a little bit. So I'm gonna cut back on this, get my movement in. I'm gonna walk in the mornings, drink so much water so that it's just going through me and I don't get off of my routine by any means. So that's my tip. What's yours, Tracey?
And I want you to know that we're going to share more on holidays and even, again, being able to here in the month of November and making sure you have those treats. So, oh my goodness, hidden sugar. One, definitely, I'm going to say it again, download the handout. Because when I started realizing all those names, and then started realizing here are all the ways that it's hidden, but here's what I can add in to crowd out. I'm just going to encourage you for even like 2 days, just pay attention, take the inventory, take a look, because so many people would be shocked and go, I had no idea that I was consuming this much. I didn't think about, the piece of glazed salmon that actually has the 10, 12, 15 grams of sugar on it. So I'm going to encourage everybody, download the list, educate yourself, screenshot it on your phone, and then just start taking inventory and then start adding in to crowd out so that you feel like you're sexy, energetic, confident self all holiday long with that golden, beautiful tan. I'm sorry, but it is true.
I love it. Well, thank you, Tracey. As always, this was a fantastic episode. And until next time.